Good morning. Today is Thursday, March 16, 2023, and this is a special meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Each vote today will be a verbal vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. After we have had a motion and a second regarding each item we are taking up today, there will be a roll call vote by district. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Here.
Richard Valley,
Here.
Doug Verboon,
Here.
Rusty Robinson,
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We have 5 board members present. We got quorum to conduct county business. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, salute. United States and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to County Council for some announcements and some house cleaning to make sure that our procedures are good to go. Council?
Thank you. The Board of Supervisors has convened pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.5, which authorizes the board to hold a special meeting without complying with the normal 24-hour notice and posting requirements when a majority of its members find an emergency exists that severely impairs the public health and involves matters upon which prompt action is necessary due to the disruption or threatened disruption of public services and facilities. In order to strictly comply with the statutory requirements, I'm asking at the commencement of this meeting that the board consider making findings that, 1, there is an emergency due to an emergency in Kings County due to floods that severely impairs the public health and safety, and 2, that the emergency involves matters upon which prompt action is necessary due to this disruption or threatened disruption of public services.
Can we just take a moment? We're having a technical difficulty and we want to make sure everyone has access.
Okay.
Just give us one moment.
I signed out of my computer and didn't sign the WebEx.
Not sure why people are not being able to.
I copy and pasted everything from you.
We don't know why. We're not sure why.
Let me try to open mine.
Okay, we're going to have her try.
Is there a broadcast?
It's supposed to be. Yeah, it's on YouTube, but these people are trying to access the WebEx, so we don't want to.
It says the thing for waiting on what the host.
It's putting everybody in the waiting room. Not sure what's happening.
I click the link.
Better restart this meeting. Restart the WebEx meeting. Yeah.
It will take us just a moment. We're gonna have to restart the WebEx because we don't want to.
Will the link be the same for people who got the link on the agenda? Okay,
That's what our issue is, that people are trying to get in using. that.
okay, okay.
So just the web.
In Kings County due to floods that severely impairs the public health and safety, and 2, that the emergency involves matters upon which prompt action is necessary due to the disruption or threatened disruption of public services.
Okay, I think then based on the position that Supervisor Neves holds, I'll ask him to start us off on that conversation and then you're going to need a motion.
We will need a motion and a vote.
Okay. Proceed, Neves?
Yeah, due to the circumstances that occurred in the last 24 hours, mainly on the Cross Creek, I think it
needs the board to take action and at least take under advisement some of the information that's come to the forefront.
And from your position, you called for the meeting? Is that how this works? Okay. Verboen, you got anything?
I think it's important we get this over with and get these people to share their thoughts and ideas and start a line of communication. I think this is not going to go away. We need to, we have the Eventbrite with that, for the safety for the Abraham. So we need to have all the, we have a link that we can send information to people for emergencies, so the dairymen know if they gotta move their cows. What's it called? Not Eventbrite.
So you're talking about like an emergency alert,
Yeah, what's it called?
Everbridge?
Everbridge.
Our Kings County
Yeah,
program?
so we want to make sure everybody that's involved in this area has access to Everbridge, so we can send them, keep them in contact of when the floods are coming. Also, we need to make sure we have access to Kauai when water goes over the dam. And also I don't have a problem with the river, they communicate 4 or 5 times a day, but we have no communication from Kauai Lake. So I think that's important.
So I consider that a motion in a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Then any further discussion or questions from the board? Okay. A motion by Neves, second by Verboen. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Now, do you need to do the same at this time so we can keep the agendized closed session to allow the board to go into closed session?
We got unscheduled appearances first.
Yeah, no, I get that. But by the time, since it's on the agenda, you need that same procedure to take place right now to authorize a closed session?
We already have it on the agenda, so we won't need to take another vote right now. We'll be able to move into closed session.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for taking us through that part. So then now we'll go into unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Let's do this. Let's do public agencies. Let's allow all the public agencies to speak first, then the farmers second, and then everyone else after that. That way we can get a good flow. And then I'm not going to put anyone on a timer today. We're here. Let's have the discussion. We appreciate everyone who's here today. Thank you for the board and the staff being here on the short notice. So let's have the dialogue, okay? No timers today.
So I have 8 speaker cards and I don't know who they're representing. So I was just going to call them in order. Are you not wanting to do that today?
Well, if we're not organized in that fashion like I thought we were, then let's pull, Madam Clerk.
Okay, the first order of business is I did receive correspondence and the board all received electronic and hard copies of a letter from Nathan Haringa, and that will be part of the permanent record. The next speaker would be Don Veenendahl.
And even if you don't have a card in at this time, if you want to speak, just prepare yourself to speak, okay? Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I farm south of 198 and south of Cross Creek. That's my location. We expect, being on a creek, that we are going to get some flooding. My concern is for neighbors and livestock. And with untraditional flows of the water, which we can go back and look at records from the 80s and different floods that have happened in the geographical area of Cross Creek, my deepest concern is the untraditional flow of water. We've never had water flow on the east side of the CID ditch in previous floods. And my concern is for the livestock in those dairies that are going to be affected, lagoon over flooding and the pollution of the water and those things that could consider a health hazard, along with the hazard of the cattle being moved. And my experience is when you start moving cattle to that extent, you're going to have tremendous losses in not only productivity, but animal losses as well. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
The next speaker is Bo Champlin. Is good.
So for now,
Joe Faulkner.
morning, sir.
Morning, thank you. So I'm here wearing 2 hats. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Corcoran, and I sit on the Cross Creek Flood Control district. What we do is we manage a levee that wraps around the city of Corcoran. It starts from Fourth Avenue at Quebec and then runs around west, then north, all the way from Ninth to Nevada. When Cross Creek gets to Nevada, the Nevada area, it splits. There's a west channel and there's an east channel. Majority of the flow is going out of the west channel, right? There's a small levee that protects the east and west channel. There is some talks about breaking that channel to let more of the water come east. If that happens, it could have catastrophic implications on the city of Corcoran. That levee needs to stay there. If it gets broken at where the west channel goes west, all Cross Creek is going to want to flow into the east channel. So right now we have an armed guard there. So that channel or that levee does not get disturbed or touched. But I just wanted to emphasize to the board, that should stay there, that needs to stay there. And if that's allowed to be cut, there would be a lot of pressure on our levee and who knows? Who knows what could happen. Okay,
Thanks, sir.
thank you.
The next speaker is TJ Dykstra.
Morning.
I am talking for California Dairy, which is just to the north of 198 there. And we have a concern over the livestock in a few homes. And the concern is that we have a waste management plan. We're permitted to be in that place inside of the flood zone. And the discussion, our main concern is we understand where the flood waters show. You guys showed us the map yesterday. The concern that was talked about yesterday was the plan to block the Highland Canal and try to force that water to spread. That would create an immediate, basically, flood on our dairies. And it would release, it would go into our lagoons. We would have a release of manure water. And yeah, I think that's something that's our main concern, is basically not allowing that canal, allowing the water to continue to flow naturally into that canal, which is also in the flood zone, rather than restricting that.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thanks for your time.
The next speaker is Jared DeGroot.
Morning.
Good morning. So I am located right by the Cross Creek in the Highland, kind of in that area across the train tracks. We got about 600 acres underwater already, and it's gone down a tiny bit, but 600 acres underwater. Thing about it is that the Highland Canal is in flood zone. It's going over there naturally now. I don't think you're allowed to stop it. I mean, you guys probably are if you change it, but you're not allowed to stop it in the flood zone. Plus, that thing runs during the summer just as much as it is right now. Why can't they take that water out? Are they not pumping it? I don't know. I don't know the question to that. I don't know all the politics to it, but if that thing runs during the summer, the same amount that it's running right now, how can they do it during the summer and not right now? Yeah, I'm sure there's someone in the room that will know, but it's in the flood zone. I don't think you can stop it. It's got to go that way. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time, sir.
The next speaker is Devin Eagle.
Morning.
Hi, guys. I'm the general manager of the Corcoran Irrigation District. So in response to some of the questions that have come up about how CID operates, there's this criticism that the Highline Canal doesn't have enough water in it, as if we aren't doing our part in taking what we've been given out of the St. Johns River. And we're taking in, I think right now it's about 2,500 CFS is hitting our weir in Corcoran at Kansas Avenue. And it's manageable when it's left in Cross Creek. So when it's in Cross Creek, we can close down our head gates and divert it down to the lake bottom to JG Boswell typically. And that's primarily who manages it at that point. When it's in the Highline Canal, which is what happened yesterday, we had a lot of water being dumped into the Highline Canal, and it's continuing to happen, but we've rectified it a little bit. We don't have any check structures set up to stop that flow, and that comes directly into our system, and it is actually higher flows than it's above our staff gauge. Our reading system actually doubled back and went to zero because it doesn't know what to do with the number where it's at right now, the staff gauge reading. So it is higher than what it is during the summer. And during the summer, we have demand. Our ponds are full. So when it's in Cross Creek, we have the luxury of closing the gates and not taking in more water than we can handle north of town, which is a huge concern for the city of Corcoran. If we cannot stop up that water, cannot redirect it through the West Cross Creek channel like we can with Cross Creek water, it could overtop a reservoir and start heading into town. And as Joe mentioned, I mean, that the Cross Creek levee does not necessarily protect from CID facilities. It protects from the lake bottom filling up and backing up into Corcoran. So that's a different situation. We have to manage water coming in from the north and getting into town. And so all that to say, just our concern is keeping, there's going to be some water that runs in there. It's just the grade of the fields that are next to it, and Cross Creek flows are unprecedented, so understand that. But any efforts to divert water directly into the Highline could be catastrophic for the city of Corcoran. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Tony DeGroot.
Good morning. Just a note, as of the work that was done last night, the breaches that were there, 2 of those were closed. But there's still another breach that's on the north side of the tracks. And just for your conversations later, that the breach that's on the other side is probably putting in more water today than I don't know when it broke, to be honest with you. But looking at it this morning with the drone, we can take pictures back there. And so that's right now, that channel is probably taking on more water this morning today than it was yesterday or last night. So I don't know if anybody else has observed that. I'm sure everybody's been watching this all night already, but it is flowing really hard right now. So there's no doubt about that. But another comment that I wanted to make is we knew that this storm was coming 3 weeks ago. I mean, that there are forecasters that know this stuff. And I knew this three weeks ago that we were going to have rain, a lot of rain that was going to melt the snow that we had, as well as warm temperatures to melt that snow. So my thing is, all the people that are in the know should be taking on some of this water ahead of time already. The Corps of Engineers, I know, is the one that kind of determines when and what happens. But I just don't want to see the events that actually did happen yesterday be the big story. I think there's a lot more that happened before this big event of yesterday. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all the speaker cards that I have.
At this time, anyone else in the audience would like to speak? Even if you don't have a card, please feel free to come to the podium. None?
It
Okay.
doesn't appear anyone online has their hand raised.
Come on down, sir.
So yesterday, like the groups were saying there on Greensville and Cross Creek, there was already water that was flowing into that island pretty bad. And then, like they said, we've never seen water go into the east side. So the Greensville was closed. We didn't think it was a big deal they were gonna put dirt there to try to get traffic not to go there anyway. So we just put a little bit more to hold the water that, like from the DeHoop Dairy, half of it falls towards Highland and half of it falls the other way on Greensville. So we just put a simple levee that I didn't think was actually gonna work, but it did. And then it caused the water to go where it should be going. And that's all we did. So then if we hadn't done that, all that water would have gone east and completely flooded out that John Young Dairy. It was horrendous amount of water in the morning yesterday. And Mr. Groot is right. I don't know what happened later in the evening that farther north or something. That Highland has a lot more water in it by last night and this morning. That waters are coming in than anything that happened yesterday. Yesterday was way down. It was nothing compared to like. So I don't think we didn't mean to cause any issues or whatever. The waters were already flowing in there. I don't think we did anything more than what was already happening, just levied up the one side. So some water, we think it's water. For my thought, and I don't know if other people agree. So literally like the water, if we didn't levy up there, that water was gonna go and take out 2 dairies, fill up and still end up in the Highland. So that's the other spot. It's just gonna go farther south and go in a different spot. So if we hadn't done that, we would have saved them what? Another day worth of water or whatever, depending on how much overflow that way. So it's kind of take it now or take it later, but why screw us up if we don't have to? And then this whole thing about blocking the canal, that doesn't seem legal at all. It makes no sense to me. One older gentleman, I don't know his name, but he was there yesterday and he said, hey, no, we're going to block this and it's just got a flood here. And it didn't make sense to me. Unless it's that bad in Corcoran and they're all going under water. But if there's fields in Corcoran that can take water, that have trees or are supposed to get planted with tomatoes or whatever, and they just don't want to do it because none of us want to do it. None of us want to hurt our crops. But if we have homes and cows and stuff, I don't know if that takes, if that's more of a right over plants and trees and stuff. So Corcoran, I'm not sure how it all happens there, but somebody that does, I hope they really figure out that if they're going to block that over here and make it deliberately flood, which would be just mind blowing, the amount of water that went through there. When I got there in the morning yesterday, it was like an ocean was coming towards us. So, and you guys know that. I don't know if you guys know that. If the visual is amazing compared to anybody saying that there's a lot of water back there. It's like 100 times worse than what you can imagine. So the thought of stopping Highland, it seems like not an option. I just makes no sense to me. So hopefully before that trigger's pulled, there's a lot of driving around and making sure that there's no other option.
Sir, can we get your name for the record?
Joe Mendez.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Yes, sir. Morning.
I think there's one point that wasn't made is that Highline Canal is a CID, it's a private canal. And there's precedent in the past that that's not been used for flood flows. And so there's also people downriver or down the Cross Creek that are getting flooded besides Boswell, Gilkeys, Proctors, because as a result of the Cross Creek overflowing. So I just wanted to bring that up. Phil Hansen.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Sir, can I get your name for the record?
Bill Hansen, Hansen Ranches. Thank you. Morning, sir.
Mario Cifuentes, City Manager, City of Hanford. Apologize, I didn't fill out a signature.
It's okay, sir. Go
I
ahead.
appreciate you folks convening this. It's my understanding in talking with Mr. Hill and the sheriff that you folks are considering opening the EOC. We would strongly encourage that to happen. I think, not to take away from our farming partners here, but in the city of Hanford, we've seen a couple of our ponding basins that are getting to a level that give us some concerns for the neighbors there. Most of the ground is saturated. We're doing okay right now, but our concerns I guess would be echoed by the folks that have already spoken so far. I think by putting the EOC together, that gives us the leverage to put some pressure on the Army Corps of Engineers and others and kind of act together and make sure that we're all communicating. I know my fire chief's been talking with the Office of Emergency Services. But if the EOC is activated, we can commit to having a staff person there all the time. And that helps us just to communicate. Again, as we do not have the flooding currently, we have some resources that we could help throw your way if you folks need so. And so just want to offer that up and we would be a partner in that EOC.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Now's the time.
Diane, can I ask one question to one of the speakers?
Sure. Yes, you can.
Mr. DeGroot, you sent me a video this morning of the breach that's north of the tracks. Do you think that can be reached and be repaired? From your, I mean, it's way out there in the middle of the flood ground.
Feel free to come to the podium, sir.
Anything can be fixed. We can move mountains. But this particular one, it's out in the middle of a couple hundred acres of water.
Yeah,
So to get to it, I'm not sure how they would do that. You can't get dump trucks to it.
No.
But it's just dirt. I don't know if you could zoom in on what that looked like.
Yeah,
But
I thought that was plugged, is why we had all that water to the east, but it's not plugged. It just broke out right next to it.
that broke out sometime, I'd be honest with you, I don't know when it broke,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna assume it broke last night because it wasn't flowing like that last night. And this morning, it was raging.
So I
And they had already dammed off a couple of the other leaks that were there. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks
it would
for
be
the
hard to get to it, but it's amazing what these guys are doing with these dump trucks and dozers and excavators.
Yeah, 'cause it would probably be a quarter mile out there or more, half mile.
To get to it, it might be like 3/4 of a mile,
Factor
half
in
mile
away,
to
yeah.
3/4 mile to get to that particular spot.
Okay. I think,
Come on up, sir.
And I just want to clarify that I think given the nature of the meeting and the discussions, at this point, if the board has questions, you can feel free to ask for clarification.
Yes, hello, Roger Dutra, and we farm across from DeGroot's and in the middle of the Cross Creek floodplain. My question is when we had these floods in the 80s, there was the Bureau of Reclamation came in and made a flood plan for us up there and cut 3 or 4 gaps that were supposed to always be open. And the county was going to check and make sure that they stayed open. Well, 2 of them up above us, which would be, 3 or 4 miles farther up, which would help not get so much water down here so fast, are closed. The neighbor closed them beginning of the week. And that would really drop the water level in the back. So it wouldn't be so much getting to Grangeville.
can you leave your name and number with our staff and then we can have Public Works call you? Show them where those are at. We've lost a lot of knowledge over the years with people retiring and passing away, so we have a pretty new board and we don't know all the history. Can you get those to those spots by car?
You will not get to those spots. They need dump trucks or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need a dump truck, you need an excavator. Oh, your spot, yeah. Yeah, well, I seen that yesterday, you knew it was going somewhere, you just didn't know when or where.
So you feel
And
that,
if water comes on us, it's a 100-year flood or whatever it is. The problem with us is we are landlocked. So if the water breaks into us, it's either going to break back into Cross Creek, a mile down, 1.5 miles down, which the water level 1.5 miles back is a lot higher than it is this way because it's channeled.
Right.
And if it doesn't break into Cross Creek, it's going to break into CID. And that's what we had the problem with in the 80s, broke into CID, then went across CID, then went to Fifth Avenue. where water had never been. And that's why the rec board made all the recommendations and made permanent the cuts that they made. But those are closed, so
Okay.
that would really relieve for a while, you know, everything. If the dam keeps going over, everybody's gonna get water.
We'll get someone out there, look at that, see if we can get those opened up, relieve the pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Anybody else? Council, so come on up, sir. Going into closed session, how transparent could we be as far as, I know it's closed session, but what the question of the day is going to be when we go into closed session so that folks know, as much as they can.
We have that closed session noticed according to properly noticed. I don't know if I fully understand what you're asking or what it is you'd like to share.
What, there's going to be a decision made, correct?
We will be discussing it and there may or may not be a decision made.
Okay.
We'll report out either way.
Yeah.
Right? We'll report out today.
We can report out, we can also report out today. If it's a reportable item, not all decisions in closed session are reportable, but if it's the board's desire to report out the decision, then we certainly can do it.
And the reason I'm asking that is because if the folks who took the time to be here today and the dialogue we're having, if we know what the question of the day is, if there's a decision to be made, then at least we get more feedback here during public comment before we go into closed session.
I don't believe we have an ultimate question. I think that we're going to go in and deliberate and discuss the situation.
There's not going to be a decision based on events that took place yesterday evening?
There may or may not be a decision. I expect that there likely will be a decision, but it's going to be a discussion and it will go where it goes.
Okay.
He's not going to commit.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We're getting the lawyer talk now. Okay. All right, go ahead, sir.
All right, my name is Johnny Gailey, and I live in Visalia, and I'm pretty familiar with the entire Kauai system. The dam reached the top of the spillway here at about 8 o'clock this morning. So it's kind of sitting there. It's not going over yet. It's never been there before since they raised the dam. So we're kind of in an unprecedented territory. The inflows are dropping. So Dry Creek is tapered off quite a bit also. So we do have less water coming down. The water off of Cottonwood is tapering off, and we have a lot of flows coming off of Sand Creek and the entire Alta system that are spilling over into Cottonwood, making its way to Cross Creek and coming down this way, and that's also lowering. So we've seen the water at 198 drop almost a foot since the peak yesterday. So I think we're getting some breathing room. We do have more water coming. We have a prediction for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of about maybe another inch here on the valley floor. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of an update on what the situation upstream is. There are, in my opinion, a lot of empty reservoirs and canals and systems that should be spreading water upstream in the Kauai area that are not spreading water, that are dry, empty or near empty. I think it's a severe mismanagement of our floodwater, but I just want to let you know we are going to have a little bit of a breather in the next few days. So.
Okay, thanks, sir. Appreciate your comment. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Throwing it out there because that little levee that I just built, that was literally
Come up here, sir, please.
that levee that we built on the Grainsville that we didn't know we couldn't, that was holding the water to a lot of ground and not, I don't know, like in the scheme of things, it was like a pimple on an elephant's butt of how much water was going that way. So it would save us and it would, I don't think, make a big change of what it would go the other way. If you guys, I don't know if it's possible, if we could put that back up, it would literally stop our problems. But by opening it up like they did yesterday, then we're back to square one. And then that water is just going to flood us out and then go back into Highland on the south side of our property.
Thank you.
And we have no idea what we're going to do with our cows. If you guys have any ideas,
I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Now's the time. I think we heard enough to know that things are going to be greater than it's been in the past, right? And so now's the time to be helpful. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dave Robinson, Kings County Sheriff. So just to kind of give you a rundown of what happened yesterday, obviously we've got the flooding over the road at Cross Creek, and there were some breaches that occurred, some natural, some unnatural. The unnatural ones were backfilled by the Public Works Department and some crews. The water level did drop. I was out there last night and then went back out this morning. It did drop a little bit. There's a lot of pressure going down to Corcoran. And first and foremost, my goal from the sheriff's perspective is to protect the residents of Corcoran. That's our biggest threat right now, is the residents of Corcoran. There was obviously crews that showed up to block the Highland Canal. I gave the direction to stop that work, not to do that because we didn't have enough information at the time. And so I appreciate the board scheduling this meeting this morning to take the input from the folks, you know, that were out there. We've got to assess the situation. We've got to assess it pretty quickly. Our aircraft is available today. We can get up there and fly these routes again. You know, I'd encourage everyone to take as much water as you can, wherever you can. The water's coming, and it's going to be coming for the next several months. This isn't just today and tomorrow and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This water's coming for the next several months. I was involved with the group that helped get the funds to build up the levee system around Corcoran State Prisons back in 2017. And so, you know, as far as a levee system that had the most work recently, you know, it's that because of that effort, because of all those people that were involved in that back in 2017. And so we have to utilize that as well. And we have to keep that in mind that was done for a reason, and it was done to hopefully protect the city of Corcoran. But we have to assess that daily. And I would just encourage everybody in this room, regardless of which side of the fence, field, or city or jurisdiction you're on, you got to communicate with us, because just showing up randomly on a call for service that somebody's going to block off an area of water or a canal and that's going to impact other people, there has to be a communication that takes place with us, with our EOS manager, with the Board of Supervisors, so that way we can make smart decisions to protect the citizens of Corcoran. We get that there's going to be devastating impacts on farmers and farmland and dairies. But at the end of the day, our responsibility is to protect the residents in the greater good of things, while trying to mitigate, you know, where the water goes and things like that. So, you know, communication is going to be the key in this whole thing. And I just encourage everybody, you know, most people have my cell phone number. If you don't know who to call me, and we'll come out and we'll assess it. And, you know, not everybody's going to agree with decisions that are made, and I get it. But at the end of the day, we have to try to do what's good for Kings County and what's good for the citizens in Kings County, especially the citizens of Corcoran. So I'll be in closed session to provide some more information, some videos, and be here for everybody. So thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff, for those comments. And just to piggyback on that a little bit, and just saying how fast this thing's going. When I left here Tuesday after our regular county board meeting, there was nothing even close to being said that the biggest threat right now is to the citizens of Corcoran. And then so to hear that late last night and again this morning, you know, that's something obviously that's very concerning, not just because it's my district or my hometown, but because, you know, that's an elevated statement compared to where we were at on Tuesday. And so I think the other thing that's very important that Sheriff said is the communication. And so we're looking at Corcoran. Then I'm thankful for the folks that are here from Corcoran right now, especially those who spoke up. I would hope that other entities would also come to the table and communicate. Matter of fact, I don't know if there's anyone from Boswell here this morning that would like to speak up, or if there's a representative from Boswell to come here and speak up. That would be helpful, extremely helpful, especially on a statement that Corcoran is the biggest threat is to the city of Corcoran right now. I appreciate Public Works Director, Commander from Corcoran PD, City Manager of Corcoran to be here, because based on that statement, and for the whole part of the county. This is critical now. And lastly, going back to 2017, yes, the sheriff did fly to Sacramento a couple of times. Former Supervisor Craig Peterson was with him. I was there as well. And we were up there meeting with those officials from Department of Corrections to get millions of dollars from them to pay for that levee, to raise that levee 2 feet higher. Because at that point, that whole $10 or $12 million price tag was being put on farmers, the school districts, and the citizens of Corcoran, property owners, to raise our property taxes to pay for that 2 feet of higher levee wall. So going to the prison, we were very successful. I can't remember, Sheriff, if they pitched in 3 million or 5 million. 5 million. Yes, sir. And they made that decision in minutes because they said that that's pennies on the dollar investment to protect those two prisons in Corcoran versus the cost and the logistics of transferring inmates, right, and staff out of those prisons. And so when you keep going down that path, I would hope that that levy is used and keeps people in place, because when you talk about the property owners of Corcoran, we did get our taxes raised, and especially on the west side, the people that could probably least afford it, they got their taxes higher. I'm talking upwards of $200 to $300 higher for the next several years, just because of the benefit zones that were developed and that they benefited the most from that wall versus people on the east side of Corcoran, and where my home used to be. I think my property taxes only got raised about $38 because the zone of benefit that I was in, I'm on an elevated higher ground. And so I say all that to say things have been put in place, and I hope that amongst all of us and the board, we can do what's best for all the county of Kings. Is anyone else? Superman?
Yeah, so Devin, can we get your number to contact you? And leave it with our clerk over here. We may need to talk to you and stick around a little bit too. Because, yeah.
Sue, anything to close out before we go into closed session?
No, I think we have enough information.
It is.
Okay.
Steve Robinson? Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Yes.
We're here every Tuesday, but a lot of these people are familiar faces in the community, but not familiar every Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Explain what that means going into closed session, how long it could take, so that way people aren't just milling around waiting for closed session to come back in 5 minutes, because I've seen closed session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sheriff's right. There's no telling how long this is going to take, but as Super Boone said, there may be a reporting out, which just means the county lawyers can come out here and then you would be allowed back in the chambers, and then they'd report out what you can about what actions the board took place or did not take place. But yeah, I think Sheriff's still saying you have an opportunity to make a public comment every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. as well, special meeting or a regular meeting. So this is your chambers. This is your place to come anytime.
And I see that we need to make a decision immediately on a couple issues. So we should report out as fast as we can. Okay. This is not going to go away by Tuesday. It's going to, so.
I'd like to address that, and I apologize for the lawyer speak, but,
okay.
but you know, that is my role here. And what I did not want to do is create expectations that, that the board may not be able to fulfill. And that was the intent of my comments earlier, but I do think that there will be information that's disseminated as a result of closed session today.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll close out unscheduled appearances, and the board will take up threat to public services or facilities in consultation with Sheriff David Robinson and County Counsel Diane Freeman. Thank you, everybody.
Right. Cut my vegetables. Come across 99.
Miles away.
Across, right there where you have water come right through there and.
Do I normal? Do I just say we're back in session?
Couldn't do it, get the law, the flood.
Yeah, well, we've got to have it.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, March 16th. It is 11:23 a.m. and we are back in session after closed
Okay,
session
let's
for
get
the special
called back to
meeting of the
order.
Board of Supervisors. And there is an order for our county council. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. We are reporting out from closed session. I have 3 items that I will share with the public and those present. First, in closed session, the board chose and decided to allow public works. So let me rephrase that. The board instructed Public Works to reestablish cuts between the Flint and Excelsior on the 2,000 to 3,000 block that are designed to relieve flood flows. The board also decided that CID will be allowed to repair the breaches. Finally, the board decided that there will be no damming of the Highland Canal north of State Route 198. This information will be reduced to writing. Pardon?
South of 198.
It was south of 198?
North of 198. No dam south, north of 198. Houston? Yeah. So no dam from Houston to 198? So a dam is allowed north of 198?
Anywhere really, but that was the area that they were proposing.
Right. So no dam in Houston, north to Highland. Okay. Well, they could put one down further if they wanted.
Are we clear on the motion? Do we need more clarification on the motion?
We do have 4 members here right now. If we want to clarify and
It's not a big spread. I would say so Houston north. Everybody okay with that?
Houston, north
On the Highland.
on the Highland.
No damage shall occur north of Houston Avenue on Highland Canal.
Let me take a vote of those present. Supervisor Fagundes,
Yes.
Supervisor Valley, and Supervisor Robinson, yes.
They can do whatever they want past that. They can
Okay.
ground it. Keep it for-
And the other decision of the board that I will report out at this time.
Wait, I want to make sure that that we have total clarification on that, and that's what was discussed in closed session and that. Because there was a good discussion and I just want to make sure that the motion that we made in closed session, that the impacts or the intentions that you wanted stay with what we're talking about right now. I want to make sure nothing was lost.
I think we're good.
Then
We need to reconvene in closed session.
yes, no, I want to do that. I want to do
Let's
that.
reconvene in closed session and then we'll hash this out and make sure that we are crystal clear on what the direction is.
Would you like to step into that?
Yeah, you guys stay here. Okay, we're live. All right, County Council, we're back in closed session.
Thank you. And we have clarified the direction of the board, and I will once again report out from the start. The board took action today to instruct Public Works to reestablish cuts between Excelsior and Flint on the 2,000 to 3,000 block designed to relieve flood flows. CID will be allowed to repair its breaches. There will be no damming of the Highland Canal at this time. In the event any person or entity considers damming the Highland Canal or modifying any floodplain path, they will be required to notify the Kings County Dispatch 1 hour prior to commencing work. That is my end of the reporting out.
Is all that good with the board? No one out?
Follow-up question from Mr. DeHoop in the audience.
Okay, thank you, council.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
My name is Art DeHoop from Holland's Dairy, and I just had a question on the Highline Ditch southeast corner of our dairy or Grangeville. It's going over when they repair. Are they repairing all that also? Because there's what, 300 feet or so probably running? I mean, if they're going to repair it, I'm just curious because
We give them authority to repair their own.
yeah, you're gonna repair that whole ditch.
We give them authority to build, and do so.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Hopefully, when we do the relief cuts in Cross Creek,
Eliminate some of that pressure.
so that there's no more water going into Highland Canal.
Yeah. So then when you're gonna push it more around the east side of our dairy farm and,
No, west side. We're gonna go west. We're gonna relieve it up in Perry County to get the water to go more to the west and come back into Cross Creek down by Grangeville.
yeah, if the cuts are made, on the north, on Second, Third Avenue.
We're headed there right now.
See what happens. I hope it works.
And thank you for your comment because it prompted one other thing that I was going to share. And that is, I just want to make it clear that this is the action of the board today, but this is an ongoing situation that will continue to be monitored, and the board may meet again under similar circumstances, emergency circumstances, to further consider any action that may need to be taken.
All the way through June, at least. Yeah.
Very much so. It could go all the way through June.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
This is the same shirt I wore yesterday, if it tells you anything. So just clarification. So Highline, we call it Highline all the way until it is quite a ways into our kind of area of control. And so if we had an emergency inside of our own district, you know, would we need an hour
Yes.
of notice?
Just make a phone call,
Okay.
be aware of it.
Because if that were to happen, if that was closed there, it would be flooding in our area is all I was asking. So,
We just want to be part of this
right.
communication.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else before we adjourn? Okay, we're good to go. We will stand adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You asked the buyer.
Ooh, God.